What's up, YouTube?
What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube?
What's up, YouTube? I'm Ruggly Juice Recipes. Welcome back to DIY Made Easy. These videos are geared towards mixers who are just starting out making their own e-liquid. So, whether you are a new mixer or a veteran of the DIY community, I hope you find some enjoyment here. So, I've been trying to think of an idea of how I was going to describe to you what this video is all about. And I think really the easiest way for me to describe it is to simply tell you that sometimes making flavor profiles is not necessarily about the flavors that you choose, but also, and sometimes only, about the texture of those flavors and how they work together. Yeah, that probably doesn't make absolutely any sense at all. But what I mean is that with this recipe specifically, I was trying to create something that was more texturally satisfying than it was flavor satisfying. Again, probably not making any sense. Yeah, so like I said, it's really, really hard to explain what it is exactly that I'm talking about here. The flavors that I chose for this profile, I chose because of the different textures that they provide, and I really, really, really like the way that these textures work together. The flavors, you know, when you look at the recipe, the flavors actually make a lot of sense. They go together flavorally, but this recipe is explicitly more about texture than it is about flavor. And it's an RY4, you know, I'm just going to let that out of the bag right now. This recipe is called Runaway, and it is a dark, smoky tobacco note. And it's about texture, man. This recipe is about texture. And of course, you know, when you use this flavor, if you mix this up, you're going to taste it. And it's going to taste like what the flavors that are in it. But it would be really awesome if you would try to, you know, get the texture more than the flavor. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the Runaway. It's an RY4. So what is an RY4? It's tobacco. Yeah, so we're going to start with tobacco. 4% of FA Soho. FA Soho is yeah, it's a dry, mild tobacco. It's got some bakery notes, you know, something a little bit like a cookie. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit darker than some other mild tobaccos, than some bakery notes, like a dark cookie, not like a burnt cookie, but like a dark cookie. So the texture that we are getting from this is smoky, and it is crunchy. Smoky and crunchy. Okay, think about that. 4% of FA Soho. And the next flavor that we are going to put in here is to complement that, to complement it, not to contrast it, but to complement it. And it is Flavora Mocha. And we are going to use that in here at 2%. So Flavora Mocha is a dry chocolate flavor. It's dry. It's dark, and it's a little bit bitter. Okay? So complementing the crunchy, smoky flavor that we're getting from the Soho, we're using a dry, bitter flavor. Okay. The next thing that we are going to put in here is also to complement that, and it is 1% of Flavora Caramel. Flavora Caramel is a dark, sweet note. So this is the dark smoky part of this, the mysterious part of the texture. Okay, so when I vape this, it's dark, it's mysterious, and then it's creamy, it's buttery. Contrast. So the first half of that recipe was to complement. The next half of the recipe is to contrast. So dark, crispy, warm, buttery, creamy. 2.5% of Wonder Flavors Butterscotch Cream Pie. This is thick, it's rich, it's sweet, and it's creamy. Contrast. The last ingredient that we're going to put in here is 0.5, so 0.5% of FA Hazelnut. Nutty, creamy. Contrast. Dark, smoky, crunchy, mysterious. Creamy, bright, beautiful, fragrant. This is a very, very, very good RY4. It's very different than a lot of other RY4s that I've tried. And specifically because when I walked into this, I wanted to do this. I've been wanting to do this video for a really, really long time to talk more about texture than I was about flavor. And granted, I always mention texture because I think that texture is something that's super duper important for a good recipe. A good recipe has good texture as well as good flavor. This is more focused on the texture of the recipe. So it's just kind of something for you to munch on. You know, when you're making your recipe, think about the texture. If you want to make a successful recipe, think about contrast, separation. You get these notes over here, and you can distinguish them from these notes over here. Sometimes recipes, they get kind of muddled together and you can't really distinguish. And I think that that's something that's really, really important. When you vape this, you get that dark, smoky, mysterious tobacco on the inhale, and then you get that warm, fragrant cream on the exhale. And it is perfect. I don't know about perfect. It has very good separation, and it was a really good example of what I was trying to share here. So my hope is that that translates into the recipe. What I'm trying to say translates across. I really, really hope that it does. As far as steep time goes, you probably want to let this sit around for like 3 days, you know, a week. You're going to get really, really good texture out of it. You'll get those kind of warm bakery notes, the tobacco note, and the cream will kind of develop a little bit more, you know, 3 days or a week. As far as sweetener goes, I did put 1% of Flavor West sweetener in here because I pretty much put 1% of Flavor West sweetener in everything. But, you know, if you don't want to put any sweetener in here, don't. If you want to ruin your texture, use Capella Super Sweet because it has citric acid in it, and it's going to kind of mute out some of those, you know, some of those really good notes that are in here. So don't put Super Sweet in here. Unless you like Super Sweet, you can put it in there. I don't fault you for it. It's totally fine. Yeah, the Runaway. A tactile RY4 for you, from me, Ruggly Juice Recipes. Listen, if you like what I'm doing here, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn notifications on so that I get to annoy you every time I upload a video. Like, comment, and I will definitely see you guys in the next one.